Hello, welcome back. It's week 67 on Out on That Line. I'm Geoff with my co-host Alex. Alex, how you doing this week?
Geoff, I'm shook. We have an official Out on That Line scandal on our hands. And when I say that, I don't
sound
mean
the
us.
alarms.
We, because it has nothing to do with us. There's no mea culpa from us. But I think somebody is in hot water, and that somebody's name is Dua Lipa.
Yeah, I bet she wished she could levitate out of this one.
I see what you did there, Jeffrey.
Yes, she has got herself in a little hot water here because the song Levitating sounds exactly like another song from 2016 or something like that, by a band called Article Sound System, and the song is called Live Your Life. I suggest you go check it out because it is uncanny how similar the choruses on these songs sound.
All day, all night, party to sunrise now. Don't stop till you have lived your life, lived your life for real. Lived your life. I got you, moonlight, you're my starlight. I need you all night. Come on, dance with me. I'm levitating you.
I mean, it's how do you propose to get away with that? Just because they're SoundCloud rappers or SoundCloud white reggae people? Like, I don't know what she or her management thought they were gonna get away with. It's like literally the same thing. It's a sample, basically. Like, I can't.
Like how you, I just don't. I've heard of songs where, when what was that? Alan Thicke's kid, Robin Thicke, that song, whatever, Blurred Lines, that was sampled from a Marvin Gaye song.
I think so.
And it didn't sound totally the same. Like it was different enough where they got away with it for a while, but this is not even far apart at all. Like the melodies are the same. The way they drop down, maybe they're not in the same key, but the way that it's structured and the steps down that it takes in that chorus is exactly the same.
It's insane. Now, I will say the original band, the Static Experience, whatever the hell you called them, dumb name, dumb guys, got a bunch of shit on their faces in the picture that I saw. I mean, they suck. They're terrible. The singer is totally off key, if you want to call him singer, heavy use of air quotes. They're awful. That does not excuse stealing their shit. I think you go to them and you go, I'm Dua Lipa, and I'm going to shoot straight with you. You guys suck. You're terrible. But you did come up with a catchy hook. Now, I would like to take it. Here's a bunch of money. Tell me I get to use it, and fuck off. And I will make sure that you are a footnote in the history that is Dua Lipa. And instead, someone just straight up jacked the song and thought that when it blew the fuck up, that the original people weren't going to go, wait a minute. I just don't know how it took them this long.
I don't understand. I mean, it probably took them as long as it took to get good enough lawyers on board to do this. But it's how do you, did you read about the guy that wrote the song that came up with the melody? Did you read about how he said that he came up with it?
Well, why don't you tell the people?
There's a recording, he did an interview on a podcast or something, but there's a voice recording of him talking about how he was looking for this one specific organ or synthesizer, some keyboard type of instrument, and finally found one in Japan or something, and then got it home, and the first thing he did was play that riff, that melody line that opens up the song. And he was and from there, just it all fell into place. He's it's just one of those things that, when something strikes you like that, you just got to get it out, is basically what he was saying. I'm man, because I had read that after I listened to the songs, after I listened to the new one. And don't get me wrong, I love Dua Lipa. I am as pro Dua Lipa as anybody, and this will not tarnish my view of her whatsoever, because that song was only the second best one on that album anyway. Hallucinate was the better song on that album. But how you expect people not to figure it out. And it's not as if that other song by Article Sound System was like, I mean, I'd never heard of it, obviously. Most people haven't, but it has like tens of thousands of views on YouTube at that point. They have a Spotify that they have a few thousand followers. So like there are people aware of this song. And with the way that Levitating blew up and took over the planet, like how were you not going to, you had to know that there was going to be somebody that knew what that Live Your Life song sounded like and was going to hear this Dua Lipa song. Like you had to know those things were going to happen.
I mean, that is so the balls on you, sir, to not just take the song, to take the riff, but to lie about coming up with it, which leads me to believe my original theory was, well, maybe they just swiped it and went, if they come after us, we'll just pay, we'll give them a settlement. Everybody's happy. They get, we'll give them some minor credit inspired by or whatever the fuck you want to do. Mm-hmm. And we'll pay them off and everyone goes away and we make way more money off the royalties for the song. But it's like, once you tell that Porky where you're like, somebody told a Porky and said he came up with the song, I don't think you can do that because you've added, you've put a hat on a hat with the lie. You can't be doing that. You absolutely cannot. It's like these comedians. It's the concept of parallel thinking. It's not plagiarism. It's not joke jacking. We just both happen to come up with the same joke about, women be shopping, Amy Schumer and Patrice O'Neill. Yes, Patrice O'Neill came up with his 3 years before I did. Yes, I admitted to watching that special 900 times in a row, but I definitely didn't steal that joke. Come on now.
I mean, it's just, and that was, I feel like, more egregious than this was, but this was still like very egregious. Cause I mean, maybe if you had heard this like in a bar by some like live band that you never like doesn't sell CDs, like they're just a local band like I used to play in, like that kind of thing, then I feel like you might be able to get away with it because there's not going to be a whole lot of proof that they came up with that before you did. But this was like there was recorded versions of that previous song all over the place online already. That song was known enough by people that they had featured like music articles written about them. I mean, they were not a popular band by any means, but like more popular than most bands are ever going to get.
I'm legitimately flabbergasted by the whole situation. I am amazed and know not what to say. Again, it's just the balls to not just jack it, but to lie about it. I will be very curious to see how this sugars off.
Yeah, I will be interested to see how much money, because they're asking for all future proceeds from this song.
Whoa, holy shit, Frank.
And this song is everywhere. This song is in, I play a game called Forza Horizon 5 on Xbox. Highly recommend that game. But Levitating is on that game. Like it's one of the songs that just plays on one of the radio stations you can choose while you're driving around. And they paid a lot of money for that song. There's other video games that did the same thing. It's on the soundtrack to like commercials, movies. I mean, they made a lot of money on that song.
That just goes to show you guys, don't go telling Porkies. You gotta be true to your art and come up with your own shit. And if it sucks, it sucks. But you can't be stealing stuff. You're gonna get burned.
Maybe they knew that, like they knew, because this album also, it came out 2 years ago. It's not like this album was brand new either. Like this is 2 years in the making. And I feel like that single came out even before that. And so this band has been sitting on it. They're like, they waited for all that TV money, all that video game money. They waited for all that movie money to flow in on that song. They waited for all those album sales, all those awards she won. They waited for it all. And then in the middle of her first world tour, after that album had come out like 2 years ago, and bang, lawsuit. Like these people were sitting dead red waiting for their moment.
I have actually changed my whole stance on this. To the people out there, instead of investing in cryptocurrency, come up with a hook and make sure that someone like Billie Eilish or Dua Lipa is going to see it and steal it. Wait for the absolute maximum time they prove the viability of the song, and then come and get your money. It's way safer
Yeah.
than Litecoin.
Yeah.
That's
Fuck yeah.
my advice.
Yeah.
And hopefully you don't get burned by an estate as litigious as, say, Frank Zappa's.
Yep.
His notoriously litigious estate. And that is how I ended up getting him into this episode.
Well, the Zappas are not the only ones.
It's true.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
That's very true.
I mean, Prince's family, they were pretty ruthless for a while, you know.
Yeah, Prince's estate is nuts.
Yeah, there's precedent for that for sure.
Yeah, we're getting sued just for saying his name.
Oh, I watched the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction solo that he did on While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh, it's gross, isn't it?
My goodness gracious. My goodness gracious.
What a murderer's row that was, too. You
Yeah,
know?
unreal. I mean, was it George Harrison's kid was playing like acoustic guitar, right? He was up on stage. I think he was the one right behind Prince. Was it Dahani? Is that his name?
Yeah, Dahani, or maybe it's Danny, I don't know. But
Yeah,
D-A-J-N-I.
Yeah. And he was up there watching Prince just like shred on his dad's song. That had to have been so fucking cool.
Oh, how do you hide your boner? You know? You stand behind Jeff Lynne and just like hope for the best.
Yeah, well, hopefully you just wear the guitar low enough that maybe that's why all those guitarists that wear their guitar really low. Maybe that's why they do that.
That's a good point. All those babes in
Yeah.
the front. Yeah.
We just solved a whole lot of problems in the world.
Damn, we're not even 10 minutes into this episode, and
Yeah.
we're figuring it all out.
Yeah. We did it. Well, what do you say we wrap this segment up and say, you know, slap Dua Lipa's wrist a little bit, you know, you gotta be better. You need some people. Well, it's not, I can't really, I guess I'm not going to put it on the girl. So I'll just say the guy that wrote the song, bad move,
Yeah.
very rude. It's going to cost you a whole lot of money, bro. You could have just paid them like $25,000. Think of it. A band that hasn't been that popular, you offer them like 25 grand. You're like, let me use that hook.
Yeah, and then they get to say that that Dua Lipa bought a song off them, and that will in turn help them as much as the 25 grand would.
Yeah.
I don't know. No one thought this through.
Yeah. It's so simple. It's so easy.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah. But now, oh man, and she's going to lose her money from that too.
Mm-hmm.
That sucks. That's
Yep.
like her biggest song ever, for sure.
I guess you could say Dua Lipa's the real victim in all of this.
Well, I mean, when you break it down as we have in this sort of depth, which I'm really proud of us, by the way, because I feel like neither of us did more than like 5 minutes of research on this thing, and we just got a whole lot of content out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
That's what we do best.
Yeah, that's good pod.
That's
Good pod. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, we'll never blame Dua Lipa. She's blameless on this show.
No, she's bae.
Pro Dua Lipa pod.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what do you say that we get to what I'm sure everybody is here for? Is the Beach House album called Once Twice Melody, released just a couple weeks ago, February 18th. Beach House has been around for, let's see, probably what, 10, 15 years?
I think
probably?
they started in 2013, I think.
Okay, so they've been around almost 10 years next year. But I'd never really listened to them, you know, so this was an album that we were choosing between this one and another one. And I was, you know, hadn't really heard anything from them. So I was like, I'd rather do the one that's still fresh. Cause the other one, not going to bring up the name and paint anybody's view of it, but I wasn't that interested in doing the other one. So we went with Once Twice Melody. And this was, I'm going to say out front, like, you know, again, not one that I was going to shout from the rooftops that I was absolutely in love with, but it was a very pleasant album to listen to. That is one thing that I will make clear as we go along here. It was very, like, musically pleasing.
I had a much stronger reaction to this. I thought this was fucking incredible. I am a big dream pop guy is the thing.
Yep.
I just like as a David Lynch guy as well, I said this with Mitski. David Lynch, some might call him the progenitor of dream pop. He almost kind of invented the genre when he was working with Angelo Badalamenti on Twin Peaks. Just this, like, the way that David Lynch works is it's all a dream. He doesn't sit there and go, okay, Spider-Man fights Dr. Octopus, and then Dr. Octopus reveals that the true villain is like, he doesn't, that's not how his brain works. He will sit there and chain smoke until he gets an idea, and then he'll just like follow imagery. And what are dreams if not imagery? So if you're going to set music to that, it's got to be an appropriate kind of thing. So he, in essence, really kind of pioneered the dream pop genre, which is fucking wild. And I love both those things. I love his movies. I love dream pop unto its own. I started listening to, I, again, cannot claim to be the authority on Beach House, but I did discover their album Depression Cherry when you and I were living together in Texas. I listened to it in the tub while I was soaking my legs in Epsom salts. Because I was so banged up. I was like, I just need something relaxing. And I put Depression Cherry on. And it was amazing. It's elements of dream pop, shoegaze, lo-fi, indie pop, neo psychedelia. Like, they're able to do so much, and it all sounds completely different, but there's a total unity of sound, and I appreciate that. They're not going all over the place, but you get a completely different experience song to song. I think that is a singular talent.
Yes, and I will agree with you on the unity. Like, that is one thing that, you know, because at no point did I find myself like thinking like, oh, this is bad, I don't like this. At 0 point on this album was there anything that I didn't enjoy hearing. I think all it was missing is just, I like, you know, the music that really grabs me is stuff that is very dynamic in tempo, in like intensity, you know, and has some waves and stuff like that. I felt like this one was a very, very even keeled, kind of calm experience. Like you're kayaking on very calm water versus, you know, a lot of bumps. And it's just, for me, it's like an hour and 20 minutes of that while I was doing, you know, just sitting around was fine. Like, I was totally fine with it, but at no point was I like, oh man, this is going to be like, was an incredible experience or anything like that. It was just a very pleasant experience. It was almost just a very like calming, relaxing time that I had listening to this album all the way through the couple times that I did.
It's so funny. Once again, we had like the complete opposite reactions. I was so like actively engaged in this because for something that is entirely predicated on imagery, because the lyrics aren't like a big thinker. They don't tell necessarily like a very on the nose complete story. Again, it's images to go with the images that the music itself creates, because they're doing so many different dynamic things. So it is a dream. It's totally ethereal, but it's got a huge sound. It's very intimate. Like when you said it's like a kayak across like smooth water, I see it as like the total opposite. Like I understand what you're saying about like dynamism and like rock and roll, and this definitely doesn't have that. It has a totally different dynamism by its own logic, by the dream pop logic, which is what kept me interested. And I know a lot of people had a problem with the pacing because it's an 80-minute album. They had to release it in 4 chapters, 4 different chunks. And I think that was smart. You wet everybody's beak, and then when the whole thing is out, you know exactly what you're in for, and you can revisit it without being overwhelmed. So I didn't have any problems with the pacing. It was like Big Thief. It fucking flew by for me. But clearly the pacing was an issue for you. It was a lot to bite off.
It was, I think, just because it didn't, and I think it's just because what gets me is, like I was saying, is that something a little more dynamic when it comes to the emotions, the intensity, the tempo, whatever it might be, just something that kind of makes me snap back into it. And not that and like I said, there was no part of this album that I was just like, no, I don't like that. You know, every part of it was pleasant. It reminded me a lot of that song from the movie Drive.
Night Call. Yeah.
Yeah. The one, The Real Hero, you know, that song reminded me of like Com Truise quite a bit. So like there's other artists that I really like that do this same kind of thing. So at no point did I like not enjoy myself. So it's like hard to take such a hard middle ground on this one, but it's just like, I can't even call it a middle ground. I'm leaning more towards that I really enjoyed it because I was closer to that than not liking it at all.
Right.
So it's just, let's get right into the songs. I feel like as we talk about these, it might give us a chance to be a little more specific about what it is that you loved about it and what I felt like I could have gotten a little more out of. So,
Yeah, sure.
the first one here, Superstar, on the album that we chose. So there were a lot to pick from. We did just do our normal 3 each. So I feel like by no means can you consider this a total and complete view of this album. So definitely go check it out for yourself and find out what you think about it. So the reason I like this one was because this was one of the more dynamic songs sonically that there was on the album. And so this was one that it's early on in the album, so it's not like I had a chance to kind of tune it out at all. But this one was one of the ones that I was looking for more of this throughout the rest of the album. This was one of the ones that was like the carrot on a stick kind of dangling in front of me, that if there was a lot more like this, I probably would have been a lot more excited about it. But I really like lyrically on this one that they're not begging you to listen to the lyrics and like fully understand what they're saying in words, because like you were saying, they're saying a lot with the music.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they do a really good job of that in making it seem like helping you paint a picture in your head, and whatever your picture is different than what my picture is in that. But what it is whatever environment you're putting yourself in to feel the emotions that they're conveying, they're very good at making you do that and putting yourself in a position where you can relate to it. So that part I really enjoyed. And I felt like on this song was one that I really got engaged with it because the music got a little bit more exciting. So I was able to really dive in with the story and involving myself in it, I think, which is what they were looking for.
Well, and you're absolutely correct when you say that the lyrics are only one part of a whole. There are different artists that, I mean, we always reference Bob Dylan's Masters of War. Bob Dylan is a lyricist. You know what I mean? He's a lyricist first. You get people, I would dare say The Weeknd is a musician and an arranger first. I think I can't say he writes crappy lyrics, but I don't think that they're necessarily reinventing the wheel. So there are some people that exist in one wheelhouse or another. I think Beach House is like, wheelhouse, Beach House. Beach House is the perfect combination because it's all the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So you've got lyrics which support what's going on. They're one image. You have images from the music itself. What they're so good at is characterizing an emotion, or if you want to call it a character, with the music. It's just it's so much craft is put into it to make sure that you know exactly what the scene is. And like you said, you can get a different experience at it. For me, this song was memory and nostalgia and how it's fleeting and we have these moments. And again, everything comes back to a dream. You can try to hold on to a dream, but as you wake up, you're going to forget it. You know how it feels when you're in it, but it's going to slip through your fingers at a certain point. And that is this song. It's got that beat, which is very persistent, and it marches on the same way that a dream can't last forever. A moment can't last forever. That fat ass beat is just pushing it forward and forward and forward and reminding you, you only have this, you only have a moment for a moment, and then it becomes nostalgia. Every single thing we do and say slips into antiquity, and then you can only remember it. You cannot live there again. So this song is like a half-remembered memory for me, and I think that is such a cool trick for a single song to play.
Yeah, and the verse 2 is the one that really grabbed me, because the way that it threw your emotion. So like what I imagined for myself is I love like 80s movies. Like I love like Field of Dreams, Cocktail. You know, I love the kind of went a little bit campy, but not to the point where it's like a parody. It's like they're just very genuine in their emotion. They don't care what the outcome is going to be. In terms of Cocktail, it was bad. In terms of Field of Dreams, best movie of all time. But like at night, they always have that the sky just looks endless. you know, in the 80s movies, it's like they have such contrast, like the foreground colors, those deep greens and stuff. Like Beetlejuice did the same thing. It's like the sky just seems like endless. And when I heard verse 2, I imagine I was like in an area like that, in an environment like that, as I'm listening to it somewhere out on the radio. Look up high, now you're gone. I see it now in this photograph. Something good, never meant to last. I don't want to know how the story ends from now to then. And it's like they just left and now you're alone. And from now till then, you know, it's all downhill. So you don't want to know how it ends because you know that it's going to be bad no matter what. And just the way that they like plant you in an environment and then give you an emotion and then give you a story that you can feel for yourself is just like, that was some pretty deft song structure and songwriting.
Yeah, their motif really is just, what do you think of this? Instead of, well, this is what it is. I mean, obviously there's meaning to it for them when they're creating, but they don't need you to get out of it what it's like. David Lynch, again, David Lynch, you can go up to him and be like, oh, clearly what you meant by, you know, all of these references to electricity is the fact that, you know, the natural world has its own electrical current, but we've turned it into artifice, and it's, you know, all this bullshit. Like, I just riff that off the top of my head. And you have people that actually think about the imagery in David Lynch films, and they like go to master classes with him and throw their theory that they've worked on for a year at him, just exhaustively, and he just goes, no. He knows what he meant. He knows what he felt. He's not going to articulate it for you. Yeah. And in many ways, I'm not sure he can articulate it beyond the feeling that he has. And that's the same thing that I get from Beach House.
Yeah, and I feel like it's, I don't know, an artist, I feel like almost always will tell you exactly what they meant if they want you to know. Like, they will volunteer that information. Like, you're not going to have to dig that out, because if that's part and parcel with that song and understanding it, they're just going to let you know. When it doesn't matter, like it doesn't here, like you're allowed to just feel it the way that you want to. You know, you can't really question that. It's like, why would you even want to, like, depersonalize it for yourself? Like, that's all you're going to do if you hear what the actual reason for it is, because you're not going to be able to form your own. You're not going to be able to build your own house around that foundation. You know, it's like just not something you'll be able to do. But the next song is one of your picks, Pink Funeral. And tell me a little bit about it.
Dream pop, but make it creepy as fuck. You could have knocked me over with a fucking feather when this one started. It's got these, like, Bernard Herrmann, the guy that wrote the Psycho theme song. It's got these, like, Bernard Herrmann vibes to it where it's totally ominous. So if it's dream pop, it kind of slips into, like, nightmare pop for a minute. But it's still completely enchanting. It's got these lush, ghostly tones to it. It's got the strings, which I think, like, strings are such an inherently creepy thing. Even when they're at their most beautiful, there's something haunting and creepy to it, which is why, again, to reference the Psycho theme song, that had to be strings. Can you imagine that with fucking trumpets?
Well, that might be in a comedy.
Yeah.
That. Yeah. I feel like, is there ever a menacing trumpet sound? Has that ever happened?
I highly doubt it, because they all sound like a fat guy farting. Like, so I the strings are such a specific thing, and you're taking the strings and this, like, really disorienting, powerful synth fuzz that they've created, and it just absorbs you into this dream, and it almost gives you, like, sleep paralysis. Like listening to, I don't want to be a goober and be like, I couldn't move when I was listening to it. But that's like the sensation I had in my head. I was like, oh my God, this feels like something very bad could happen to me, and I won't know it, because it's going to be like a Jodi Arias situation where it's like, oh, a pretty lady, stab 27 times. And I like that. I like that it kept me guessing.
Dangerous.
It was sexy danger. Yeah. This song is sexy danger.
Do you think, I mean, so that's like a brown note situation, you know, where it's like the brown note being what makes everybody shit themselves, but it's like whatever the equivalent of that makes you, like, go into a sleep, like a coma, basically. whatever note that is.
Yeah, yeah, it just induced. And the thing is, I did have some wild dreams. Not anything like related directly to this. There might be no correlation, but after listening to this like twice through, I had some really cool fucking dreams. So there's something to be said for the power of suggestion with this music.
Well, this one, so I was reading about this one because that was what I had to do with this album and get myself caught up with Beach House a little bit. But it's like kind of based on Swan Lake, which the only version of Swan Lake that I've ever seen is part of Black Swan. I have not finished that movie. And I wanted to point out that there's a spoiler in that movie because I've never seen Swan Lake either. So I just saw a spoiler like live on the pod just now of what happens at the end of Black Swan.
Oh, it's the
So
big
now I
one,
guess-
right? I won't spoil it, but
Yeah, Odette jumps to her death. So yeah, it got ruined for me. So
oh, there you go.
yeah, fuck everybody.
Everyone shares Jeff's pain now.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it sounds. That's why it just made it sound so much creepier for me because what I saw of that movie was very creepy.
Yeah.
Like that was an uncomfortable movie. That was like Uncut Gems level uncomfortable for me.
Oh yeah, Uncut Gems will make you butt sweat. The thing about Swan Lake is it really, like, for as beautiful as the music is and for as beautiful as something like ballet is, it is a very creepy story. Like, first of all, you have like body horror in the sense that it's a woman that turns into a swan. And then you have an evil sorcerer who's like, all right, well, fuck this prince guy who's trying to steal my swan lady. I'm going to get a different swan lady to essentially, act as doppelganger here and destroy this budding relationship with them, thus driving the good swan to suicide. And in some versions, the prince commits suicide. Like, all of that is fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
Doppelgangers are creepy. Suicide is creepy. Like, it is a fucking beautiful show that is creepy as shit. And this song is a perfect distillation of that same feeling.
Yeah, it is very, very. So I'll read this as well. The title of the song alludes to pink flowers resembling elegance, grace, and love, commonly used at the funerals of women.
I just got to shout out the chorus too, because it's related to that.
Yeah, do it.
Don't let me go. Once was a fairy tale, then it all went to hell. Swans on a starry lake, hearts that were made to break, tears through a white lace veil, pink funeral. I mean, again, it's all these like really like swans on a starry lake. It's beautiful, but it all went to hell and funeral. Like the dichotomy that they managed to cram into this song and not have it be totally ham-fisted. Again, it's one of those gymnastic feats that Beach House has the patent on.
So, but they're saying, so tears through a white lace veil, pink funeral. So they're going from marriage to a funeral?
I think it's like, yeah, it's vacillating from
Okay.
like that sensation of falling in love, like the white swan, that kind of thing,
To death.
to, yeah, just abject horror.
Okay. That's, yeah. There's nothing happy about that one.
Nay.
So what do you say we
Yeah.
run away to the next song?
Oh, Jeff, that's two this episode.
I know. Oh, they're just too easy sitting on a tee. Can't help it. So this was another one of your picks. Runaway.
Was it one of mine? Oh, yes, it was.
Yes.
Again, they were all just so fucking jolly good that it was,
Yep.
as far as I'm concerned, all of these were my picks. This one, so you mentioned earlier Drive and how there's that Real Human Being song. There's that other one that I blurted out, Night Call. You know that one too? I'm
Probably. I mean, I've
you-
listened to that. I used to put that soundtrack on. So if it's on there,
Yeah.
yes.
That creepy, like, I'm giving you a night call. You know when you, like, talking to a fan? It's that kind of effect. And that, again, is this great, like, it so perfectly fit the images you were seeing in the movie Drive. So this reminds me a lot of Night Call. It gets off to a hot start. But then, like, you're talking about the dynamism you might have liked more of. I got a lot of that in this song. It comes out of the gate, and then it pulls back a little bit, and then it adds these little variations when needed. But it keeps jumping into these giant bursts of like sound in 3 dimensions, which is a big thing this album does, is the sound is all around you. It's right between your eyes. It's in the back of your head. It's in both ears. It's like putting a helmet of sound on. It just fills you up. The other thing I really liked about this, and again, I think it's an interpretive thing, but when it starts especially, it kind of reminds me of like in The Little Mermaid when all the fish start singing together and kiss the girl. They all play the instruments. I kind of felt like a chorus of animals in this one. There are certain synth parts that sounded like frogs, sounded like little birds, sounded like bugs, and not like, cheep, 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 cheep. Not obviously.
Yeah.
But I just got these subtle hints of like the forest creatures have come to play, and they're beckoning someone to run away, make their escape, but also maybe calling them back, because the lyrics are always calling back to like, my runaway, maybe you'll come back someday.
Yeah, this is very like 80s lyrics too, like very 80s. The night has just begun. Can you cover what you're hiding from? I mean, like very, but it's cheesy in the good way.
Yeah.
It's like it's one of those things that, like I said, it was a very comforting album to listen to all the way through for me. I was like, this is just a nice experience. And this was one of those songs. This would have been one of my picks if you hadn't selected it first. But thankfully there was plenty to choose from on this album. But this one was one that, starts off hot. That's kind of, I don't necessarily need it to be like really aggressive beat, or like, I just like having builds and swells, and they do that to an extent, but a lot of times they just like get to one and then they just stay at that level the rest of the song.
That's fair.
And I think I'd like to, just a little bit of something to bring me like in and out a few times maybe during the song. And I think this was one of those ones that did that. And because I have like such an affinity for that era of movies and music too, like these lyrics were just kind of like, right up my alley. I like this one.
And this is another tangent. My boy's getting in twice this episode, but I think that's why you might get something out of certain Zappa. I'll send you the song Trying to Grow a Chin, because the thing that Tanner and I have talked about a lot, I finally got him into Zappa, is Zappa works in musical movements. You know what I mean? It's not just verse, chorus, bridge, one more chorus. Hey, maybe we'll repeat it and get out. It's movement. So it's like you said, it can build to something, and it's not necessarily going to duck right back down to what came before. It's going to build. It's going to keep you guessing. It's going to stick and move. So I'll send you that song, and you might go, oh, this is exactly the kind of fucking stupid garbage I thought it would be. And you may guess something.
I've listened to some Zappa. I know some Joe's Garage.
Oh, Joe's Garage. Don't even get me started. We'll do a retrospective on that someday. It will basically, that episode will just be me reciting the lyrics start to finish, including the German lyrics and Stick It Out. Which I'm sure that reference just went whoop over our millennial ass audience's head, but whatever. Fuck you guys. I'm cool.
Yeah, we got to do the Zappa episode. That's got to happen at some point. Yeah.
Well, you know me. I'm down anytime.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to say about Runaway? I think I got my gush in.
No, I think we can move it on, move it over and over to over and over. You like that? I'm just shooting from the hip.
Yeah, over and over you keep nailing these references, Jeff.
It's almost like I can see it coming. Well, this one for me, I just liked the chorus more than anything. Just the way that it's, I don't know. It was very melodic to me. This one gave me some like Churches vibes too. And I like Churches quite a bit. And I got a lot of Churches, I think, throughout the whole album really, but this was a song where I really, really heard it a lot. And I don't know, this was one that just didn't ask too much of you lyrically. It just like had you go along for the ride musically. And I enjoyed that. It was like a water slide that just never got too intense. It was just always like, oh, there's a sharp little corner there. There's bring you out of, it's just something that kept it interesting through the whole song. And I think this one would have been, whether you did Runaway or not, this one might have been my favorite one. Maybe Superstar. It's probably one or two between those two for my favorite ones on the album.
Interesting. And it's funny that you mentioned churches, because that was the big thing I got out of this, was actually your two picks, which are back to back here, both had a very like austere kind of churchy, like worship sound. Like those ahs at the beginning of the song are very churchy to me, like this moment of worship and appreciation. There's religious imagery in it. There are these interesting transitions from like night imagery to day imagery. And it's, you know, over and over, there are these themes of ritual and cycles and all these repetitions, because again, in religion, the whole thing is predicated on ritual. Come back every Sunday and hear the same stories. We'll go through them in chronological order. See you on Christmas. Like,
Don't
that's
forget
what it's
10%.
Absolutely. Offer your tithe, render unto Caesar. I don't think that's appropriate, but whatever. Anyway, as a sidebar, my dad would give me an allowance as a child, $1, that I had to then put in the kitty at church.
That's not an allowance.
No,
It's
I
a
had to-
write-off.
I had to put on gloves, welding gloves, and pick up white dog shit as far as the eye could see on Saturdays to earn $1 that I had to give to the church.
Oh my God, you got snowed, my friend.
If anyone wonders why I'm such a fucked up piece of shit,
He zipped you right up.
he did. He
That's-
fucking
holy
bullied
shit.
me.
Yeah, that's not even bullying though. Like, cause you didn't even see it coming.
Oh, not at all. I went, well, this must be good for me. I trust adults. Picking up white dog shit builds character. Clearly.
Yeah, there's only one thing that gets you right in the eyes of God.
Because I turned
And
into
that
such
is
a
picking
fine...
up white dog shits.
Amen, brother. Preach. Shuck 'em up.
Oh my God.
Yes.
That sounds like something the Righteous Gemstones would say.
Yes. I would have had more
Yeah.
fun in that setting, I think, because at least they had four-wheelers.
Yeah.
I got to
Yeah,
ride
that
a
would've been-
bucket loader.
Yeah, that'd been cool. I'd be total hypocrites and liars like they would if I had that kind of money.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah. Why not? Why not?
The last thing I want to say is actually to kind of support a point of yours. I really enjoy...
Yes, go on.
Yeah, yes, Mr. I really enjoy Victoria Legrand's vocals a lot. I think they're perfect for this. But I see the argument that they are the same every time. That works for me. I can absolutely see the argument that the vocals are probably not as dynamic as we would get from, say, a Dua Lipa or a Miley Cyrus or something like that. Totally different genres, but I definitely see how your mileage may vary on those very ethereal vocals.
And the next song, Hurts to Love. Now, I loved this one because I felt like kind of like the cheesiest song on the album. Like, it was the most like 80s cheesy love song thing on here, and I just got a lot of joy from that. And the chorus, I mean, if it hurts to love, better do it anyway. I mean, how perfect is that?
Yeah, I mean, is this soft sell? Is this Tears for Fears? What are we talking here? It like slots in perfectly with that same kind of aesthetic.
Yeah.
And it's also, if you are a Beach House fan, enthusiast, wonk, dabbler, whatever, this is like very classic Beach House. Like their bread and butter is those very obvious drum machines that book tick 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 book tick tick.
Yeah.
The drum machines are back, baby. This is just like a very like quintessentially Beach House song. They throw some organ at you. That to me, again, when I said your two picks here sandwiched together, had kind of a theme for me. This was another one that was very churchy, and I realized the organ kind of invokes that, but this almost had like the structure of a hymnal and these weird little like discordant moments, like someone's finger slipped on the organ, but it kept happening, so it obviously wasn't a mistake. So it's so wild that I absolutely hear the 80s cheese, specifically in the lyrics, like, if it hurts to love you, should I walk away? But what's the alternative? I have to keep loving you or I'll wind up lonely. But if I love you, I'll probably wind up dead. Ooh, what a Sophie's choice. Like, that's so 80s. But then it's got this weird kind of worship sound to it. And again, it's these little tricks that they pull off throughout this that for me really spiced up the entire Cosmic Gumbo.
That's been a while since we heard that.
It's been
one.
a minute.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
I didn't want to abuse that one. I can't have 2 catchphrases.
You can have as many as you want. There's no rules here.
I guess.
Yeah.
guess. Hat on a hat, Cosmic Gumbo, mention Frank Zappa. Get out your bingo cards.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even wearing pants, so let them hang.
Let it ride. Let it
That's how I feel.
ride.
Yeah. So, yeah, this one just all the 80s cheese I could have possibly asked for. So I really enjoyed this one. So what do you say we boogie right on to Modern Love Stories? It wraps up the album. It's going to wrap up our picks today. It is your last pick.
Bing, bang, boom. So I don't want to catch you. I know you said your pants are off. I don't want to catch you with them down. But if and you're willing, I would like to hear what you have to say about this first. Because this
Okay.
is a very... I'll say no more. If you want to give me your thoughts, I'd love to hear.
Okay. I thought this was a great album ender. Like it really it was almost like a narrator talking about all the things they learned. You know, well, that's what it was like growing up in the South. And this is the kind of person I turned out to be. And I couldn't have done it without all those things that happened, you know, just that kind of bullshit. But it was like that. It was such a great, like, kind of just wrapped up the whole thing. It gave you a little bit of every part of the album to close it out. It was like right before the curtains fall at a musical, in a musical theater production. You know, it's that same kind of feeling that I got.
I totally agree. And this is a very polarizing track. There are a lot of people that are like, what a fucking dog shit way to end the album, specifically because of like the last 20 seconds of the song.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, it's so flat. And it's like, well, what do you want them to... They have to fucking end the album.
Yeah.
How do you want it to go? You want it to just like ad infinite, like to end on a giant tuba blast? Go fuck yourself. Like, I don't know. I loved this song. I think this might be my runaway favorite on the album.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, this is so Twin Peaks it hurts. It's got this like very sad romantic song, and the journey that I went on, the more that I listened to it, and I'm going to sound like a total fucking asshole for saying this. I don't care. But for me, this is like the ego death. It's the same thing as at the end of Silk Sonic when they blast off. And it just, the song starts in this place where you kind of see someone and the reality of the situation dawns on them in their human consciousness. It's this kind of romantic longing. And then it goes really big and really cosmic and really ethereal and like kind of creepy because you don't know how to contextualize what it is happening to you in this dying moment. And then eventually you just kind of snap into a dissociative state where you're really not yourself. From the context of the song, I'm not saying like the listener becomes dissociative. It's a DMT trip. But like in the context of this song, like the musical experience that you have is just like this expansive growth and then this like contraction back to an acoustic guitar with these like nice glossy strings over it, and it's this nice little quiet moment where like again before it just kind of like tapers down and dies off. I know that pissed some people off, but it really felt like watching the movie Melancholia. Like it's the end of the world, the other planet's about to crash into us. All you can do is grab the person you love, think about your entire life, Dewey Cox, before it hits, and accept it. Let go of yourself and transcend. And that sounds like a bunch of fucking hippy-dippy philosophical bullshit, but I literally got that out of a fucking 5-minute song.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I mean, it was the perfect album ender. I think the way that they put this together, I mean, is just, I don't know. It was exactly what I think it should have been to end the album. And if people are not cool with it, I don't think they really wanted to take this in as a whole album. Because like I said, I very much enjoyed my whole experience with this one. You know, there was, you know, just didn't get to the upper echelon for me, but it doesn't mean I didn't enjoy this one quite a lot. I mean, it's a very well put together album, very well produced. I mean, sonically, it is about as good as it gets. I would be interested to hear this one in the spatial sound that Apple Music does, but I would have to then pay for it. And I don't know if I want to go that far, but I feel like it would sound pretty goddamn incredible in something that high definition.
2 weeks in a row where we got albums that were expertly mixed. Spoon, expertly mixed. This, expertly mixed. And again, the song Modern Love Stories, just to put a capper on it, much like the song itself, it just brings everything full circle and gives you this like very tender send off. Mm-hmm. And dream pop is not it can get dark, but it's not an aggressive, message driven kind of genre. It's experiential, which I found out is a made up word, but a lot of people use it. But like
that's not a real word.
No, it was not. It's become commonly accepted, but it's like not technically a word.
I mean, it is now though. I mean, all words are made up.
That's the thing is it like joined the lexicon, but like the dictionary, it was like not a dictionary defined word for a very long time. And in some circles is still debated as to whether or not that's acceptable. I think it is.
This is some Mandela effect shit right now.
It's pretty fucking weird.
Yeah.
I only learned that because I had to type experiential learning a lot when I worked at a certain college around here because they loved that phrase. And every time I typed it, Microsoft was like, hey, dummy, this isn't a word. And then I looked it up and I'm like, holy shit, it's like debatable whether this is a real word. Unreal.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
The more you know.
Yeah. You guys learned a lot today. You learned about white dog shit pickup methods. You learned about the church. You learned about words.
You learned about Dua Lipa in some hot water.
Yeah. Damn,
learned
dude.
about a beach house.
Let me tell you something real quick to loop back to Dua Lipa. Any water that she's in is hot water. Okay? Okay.
That's, agreed.
I give Beach House Once Twice Melody an enthusiastic stream it.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. I'll say stream it. Listen for yourself, because if this is your thing, this is probably going to blow your mind. It's just, I can tell how well it's put together. It's just not normally my thing, but it was an enjoyable listen. It's very, very pleasant experience.
Nice.
Yes.
Well, here we are. And I think before we go, because we're getting long in the tooth here on this episode, we do need to talk about that YouTube. Do you know which one I'm talking about? Are you talking about our YouTube?
I'm talking about our YouTube.
Oh.
The one that we have our own URL for now. What's that URL, Alex?
Oh, well, Jeff, it's just so, it's a URL. I'm fucking panicking. You son of a bitch. That was planned, clearly. Oh, I'm breathing so hard. I found it.
I have tears coming out of my eyes.
Last week, you fucking asshole, I said, just go on our Instagram. It's in our bio. Because I can bang out the handle. But since you put me on the spot, youtube.com/C/out on that line. I do not know why they do the /C. Wouldn't it be easy to just do youtube.com/out on that line? But there's two slashes with a little C between them. Can't explain it to you, but that's what it is. youtube.com/C/out on that line.
Maybe the C stands for something. Maybe they're insulting us.
Yeah, C-grade content.
Well, hey, we are at least like B-.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Self-esteem has never been my bag, but we'll get there.
Yeah, see, that's always been my bag. Confident in myself far beyond my abilities. That's always
why we
been
work
the
so
case.
well.
Yeah, that's always been the case. Well,
so what do you want to say about the YouTube?
So I want to tell people to go check it out, because we're creeping up on 150 subscribers on there, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but we've gone from 50 to 150 real quick. So things are going pretty well. I think people are liking what we're doing, and we enjoy when you tell us what you want to hear, because that one makes our life easy in making decisions about what kind of content we're going to do on those. but it also makes sure that you have something to come back for. And that's what we're looking for. We want you to be able to keep coming back, seeing things that you're interested in. So you keep telling us what you'd like to see, and we'll give it a listen, and we'll tell you what we think.
Oh, well, hey everybody. This is Alex. I'm sitting here editing the episode, and Jeff's mic got all fucked up at the end. Sounds like there might have been a loose connection. So, we'll leave it here, and I'll be the one to say, until next time.